Let's begin simply. Violence describes our humanity. We become placed, and we learn to move.
Every real decision allows us to live. Habits of mind, of body, those are the things that kill. Guns and bombs remind me of limbo, an indeterminate state between binaries, a way of acting that attempts to define without leaving a remainder. One always shoots to kill. If not bodies, then intentions.
I can only see you. If I let go a lot of who I think I am, this kind of action. I think of the evolution of the hand and the development of tools. It only gets interesting for me if we can say we have choices to reconceive what culture may be about. It's pagan and crucial, without the blinders of morality. The fear of night, the fear of each other's desire. The mind doesn't crucify itself printing ideological pamphlets. It doesn't collapse in on itself. No, that's wrong. It can collapse in on itself. It can circle around itself so quickly, it wears out all its bearings, lose its front wheel, and bam, clings through innocence at some moderately busy intersection. Happens every day. Bad dreams.
Getting back to violence.
I don't think we ever left it. Mortality is the essence of violence, and the generation of myth. We come full circle. Violence melts into compassion through the just. The just is what immediately differentiates the manifest and what wasn't, could have been. In other words, it is the surprise of arrival and the moment before and after. The just analogy. The allowance of breath at the instant of just narrowly escaping the accident that could terminate a play of terms. My terms, your terms, the world terms, the realm of sympathy. Other times and places, faces, the soap opera of our lives.
Terrorism practices ignorance and strategically applied arrogance, the lack of any sign of sympathy. It is purposely indiscriminate. These were not terrorists, they were political militants at war. Whether we view them as naive, ludicrous, or committed means very little. They themselves articulated their own criteria. What kind of political system allows for 55 cents of every dollar expended to be allocated for military procurement? Only the military state.
Okay, fine. But what is militancy in a democracy?
For democracy to function and speaking publicly is to exist. The question of social must always be before. In other words, democracy is permanent revolution drawing on the criteria of the common good.
Who's good?
This is shifting criteria that for a society to be just must
Who's
remain
good?
open as the point of our related discussions.
Justifying anything?
There is always the possibility of relating things differently.
Yes. You can't reach the just by a conclusion.
I agree. The problem is terror, and it is the disintegration of the social bond. The instant of nuclear apocalypse is a little less than 20 seconds to the end of all discussion. The total threat, which is deterrence, is a conclusion that readily negates by its very finality the recognition of the just. It is a pervasive example of how ideology fucks with life.
Yes.
And if you missed that, we will have a recap following sports. National news has detailed the terrorist arrests in this, and if you missed that, we will have a recap following sports.
It was quickly billed as the biggest terrorist case in Canada. Police laid out the evidence for news cameras and the facts for
Cheek Eye Dunsmuir bombing in connection with the Cheek Eye Dunsmires, and police in Toronto say a bombing. And police in Toronto say enough evidence was gathered in the investigation of the five to lay charges in the October 14th bombing of Litton Systems in Toronto. 7 people were hurt in that incident. Meanwhile, a Vancouver police officer says those charged represent a cell within a larger political activist group.
The national news has detailed the terrorist arrests in this country and their path of destruction. And if you missed that, we will have a recap following sports.
Ann Hansen, sentenced to life imprisonment. Doug Stewart, sentenced to 6-year imprisonment. Brent Taylor, sentenced to a 22-year term. Jerry Hanna was given a 10-year sentence for his involvement. Julie Belmas was sentenced to 20 years.
Good evening. 5 anarchists have appeared in court in Vancouver. They face several charges, including sabotage, bombing, and arson.
29-year-old Ann Britt Hansen, 20-year-old Juliet Carolyn Belmas, 26-year-old Brent Taylor, 26-year-old Gerald Richard Hanna, and 25-year-old Douglas David Stewart.
We are opposed to any further industrial development. We reject both the ecological destruction and the human oppression inherent in the corporate machine in the West and the communist machine in the East. In fact, ecological destruction is directly related to the human oppression of sexism, racism, hierarchy, and imperialism. 5 months later, the attack at Litton Systems in Toronto.
They were charged with firebomb attacks against 3 red-hot video stores in Greater Vancouver. They are accused of blowing up a BC Hydro substation on Vancouver Island last spring. That blast caused an estimated $4.5 million damage. Police say that they will soon be charged with bombing the Litton Industries plant in Toronto. They are also charged with conspiracy to sabotage aircraft, radar equipment, and fuel tanks at the Canadian Forces Base at Cold Lake, Alberta.
We're changing the Earth, the face of the Earth, and the whole ecosystem. We're changing it just phenomenally every day, dangerously. We have no idea, how far we can go before we start an irreversible process. And it's not even for basic human needs. It's for profit. It's for corporate dollars. It has nothing to do with basic human needs. And so I just don't think it's right. I think that we owe it to ourselves and to our children and to the earth itself to leave it in essentially its natural state and just take what we need from it.
The thing that's most at stake is, simply how the community reacts to all this. There's going to be a spectacle going on for years probably of, what happens to them. And people can be affected by that in different ways. They can get real discouraged and depressed and bummed out. Or they can view it on different levels. One is being educational. It shows us something about where the state's at. It's the old iron systems all they go out. People are used to seeing the iron system. I think if they do see it, maybe that'll wake them up a bit, and that's good.
We're physically limited here, there's no doubt about it. But we feel pretty strong and pretty confident and internally they can't do anything to us.
It's important to continue to try and add something constructive to the whole community, even while we're in here. We aren't defeated, and they aren't defeated, and this is just the beginning. It's not the end of anything. The desire for freedom.
Vancouver, January 20th, 1983. Dow Jones up. Unemployment in BC over 18%. Temperature, 11 degrees Celsius. Forecast, rain and increasing possibility of annihilation.
Sometimes I can't help thinking there's nothing left to defend. Sometimes I feel I'm sinking, and darkness is my only friend.
4 minutes, coordinated universal time.
I look at my ticket. And I look at my watch. And I age in between each moment.
What kind of world news coverage? That's the main thing.
Zero. By another zero.
The loss of more than 6,000 lives.
Finally, we have an 8.
You have ticket number 1768008. You have won $10,000.
Trees, light,
Radiation fading to local water supplies. Lost the reaction. Grace, a society who lives in the dream.
I'll stand over you.
Stand by, we're coming in for a run. Take it away.
One of Canada's top military producers has lost a cruise missile contract, and management says direct action is spring. Litton Systems of Canada, Toronto factory was partially destroyed by a bomb attack in 1982, was not invited to bid on the guidance system for an advanced cruise missile. Keating blamed the loss on the persistent protest campaign that has focused public attention in the past 3 years on Litton's government-subsidized production of the guidance systems for the U.S. military machine.
They have a sort of code. They say things like, "You're cruel." Or if it's for the opposite scenario, "I'm lonely." Little phrases like that. Neither here nor there. And it's not a fixed language either. It's a way of asking without asking. I'm 28. I haven't always been a prostitute. I had quite an eventful life before that. I should begin at the beginning. Begin at the beginning. I was in government care as a child. That is, I was fostered out to some people. When I got out of the children's home, it was just before my 18th birthday. I went and bought this knife, this fish knife. And I went and stuck the knife in his privates. I just walked into his house and stuck the knife in his privates. I did 4 years prison. Apparently the guy had nothing left now. He just lived for one or two. In any case, I had to do it. That is, I was fostered out to some people. There was this guy there, kind of my stepfather, a horrible guy, man of the house. When I was 7, he forced me to suck him off. I had to, well. He relieved himself on me. Then when I was 9, he raped me. I couldn't speak for a year after that. I was completely done. I was taken back to a children's home by the authorities. They thought of me as tough, because I always fought with everyone. I was always looking for trouble. Someone just had to look at me for me to think they were out to hurt me. I wasn't at all balanced, and I had only one idea in my head. It was all I thought about for 8 years. I was to find the guy who was responsible for it all. This haunted me. It was the thing I lived for. When I got out of the children's home, it was just before my 18th birthday, and I went and bought this knife, this fish knife. And I went and found the guy and stuck it in his privates. I just walked into his house and stuck the knife in his privates.
Men don't ejaculate. They attempt to speak with their penis. Listen. My little squeaking eagle. If people could just see the great humor in it. Fantastic absurdity. Then we would have a chance.
Assault. Male, white, short, 5'2" or 3. Italian-Canadian, chubby. This man was on foot. Picked woman up on Broadway in Manitoba. Talked, then suddenly tried to strangle her. She had to fight to get away. Raped with violence. 3 East Indian males. They have a small handgun. Drive a blue Le Mans, license plate number WFA. Don't know. I have nothing that will serve me to plead against her. Watch out for these men. They raped 2 women downtown last Saturday. Her power great. Assault. Whatever love desires in my regard, I wish her to fulfill without fail. Small frame, 5'10" or more. Love. Passenger, dark hair, short, medium frame. And make the hours so weary for me. $70 per lay. To your favorites, you reveal your clear word grabbed her by the tit and pulled on it as the driver started to drive away at high speed. Often I they drove an older blue 4-door Volvo. She hit her jaw on the car trying to get away, but got the passenger with her fingernails. Whoever stands with you, I remain in the valley. Assault. 5 men at a stag. Man named Ron picked her up in a truck with Alberta plates and went to a rental boat in White Rock. One male claimed he didn't get a blowjob. He threatened the women and threw punches. All you do ever gives delight, no matter who remains under oppression. No charges. Her burden has outweighed all burdens. There is no escaping her. Rape. We must go out to meet her. Black, young, to be reduced to nothingness in love is the most desirable thing I know among all the works I have experience of, although I know it is beyond my reach. And if anyone dares to fight love with longing, wholly without heart and without mind, and love counters this longing with her longing. Male, white, older. This man picked Juvenile up at Fraser and Broadway and took her to his place at Fraser and 12th. He has a gun collection, and he took several guns with a bullet in only one. He then aimed gun and pulled trigger until the gun with the bullet was fired. He got off on her fear.
I'm not going to talk anymore. Doesn't matter how loud I say anything. It's what's listened to that has any effect.
It's not much like Hollywood. There's no specially converted dry cleaning van, no surreptitious entries into targets' homes, no miniature mics in the phone receiver, and certainly no legal battle before a reluctant judge. Wiretapping in British Columbia is a lean, efficient process. At the intercept room, police technicians have set up the tape recorders. In the master intercept room, a master tape is being made of all your telephone conversations. In the next room, a slave tape is being made for police to listen to. The tape recorders are activated by the drop in voltage in your telephone when someone picks up the receiver. The same thing happens when your phone rings. An interception device logs the date and time of the call and announces it on a digital display. Amplifiers and isolators raise voice levels when necessary and cut out tapping voices from the recording. Yeah.
There are no true apocalypses. There are no true myths of the end of the world. For it is then that any image equals any other image, and every direction is devoid of horizon, as every figure becomes lost in ground. Don't give me any shit about art.
And the only good thing about Bill Van taking over is that you can still call BC the land of the $3 bill. Glory,
nuclear power plant in Ukraine, the disabled reactor has been encased in concrete. Instrument has been installed inside to control the situation. The first reactor has been made operational again and is generating electricity for industrial consumption.
Man goes to bed early. Can't sleep. Tosses, turns, twists the sheets, lights a cigarette, reads a bit, puts out the lights. Still can't sleep. Again, he gets up. This time he goes to see the doctor. As usual, the doctor talked a lot about nothing. In the end, the man still cannot sleep. At 6 o'clock in the morning, he loads a revolver and blows out his brains. Man dead. Still cannot sleep. Insomnia. Persistent thing.
Please, Roseby.
Remember, man, you had to use the peanut, the guy charged him $3.
Oh, that would be. Oh, Mara, I didn't just baby.
Man, Uncle Tom, half straight up, hunting at the game, home mistake, yo, the man, if you lay Eve in the state of God, the rate on your bitch was a fine attention, reality maker. These are the hemorrhoids of our lives, these are the hemorrhoids of our lives. Each death, special sex, news leader, guest smart, robot man, G.I. Joe, Iris Hill, General Hospital, living in a late night lynch disaster. We are living in a late night lynch disaster. You see the A&D burger catastrophe. Car, cornflakes, Coca-Cola, Dow Jones, Cell Day, the last 12 hours for the cherry pie state. We have the last 12 hours for the cherry pie state. All the clean-cut electric chairs in China, Africa, under the sea, need to survive in war for all Hollywood ladies uniform. Looking at their daughters with inceptions with eyes, those long black soft white balls in. War is help me! War is help me! War is help me! On the Golden Red Wolf, kissing dog headlines, midday matinee, Hollywood cascade, fifth line, only lost, most frozen, post to post, each line, only lost, most frozen, post and ghosts. America can be to me, she's a pea, she's a pea, she's a pea, she's a peanut butter puppet. She used to direct it in the Persian Gulf, auto supply all you can eat, overdose on nights, oh, shoot, shoot, shoot it out, shoot it out, shoot it out. Gate ride of Arabian Nights in the final scene is the end of my friend. National League walking to New Orleans to see the Elvis G. Head and shoulders will fall on ABC and me and all that I did wrong.
The purpose of U.S. government policy has been not to defend democracy. In fact, democracies, as in Guatemala, 1954, Indonesia, 1965, Chile, 1973, are regularly overthrown if they attempt to initiate serious economic reforms. The U.S. goal is to make the world safe for multinational corporate exploitation, to keep things as they are, even while talking about the need for reform. This is the courtyard of the U.S. Embassy, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada.
31st, 1982, near Qualicum on Vancouver Island, a hydro substation
From the
was
beginning, in
destroyed.
January
The
1983,
facility was part of a
the police
controversial
illegally
hydro
orchestrated press
It
conferences
had been the target of
and furnished the mass
extensive
media
protests
with
by local
evidence, photos, and
environmentalists
information
residents
that
who would be
became the
affected by
basis
the
for
line.
nationwide news
A group
stories
calling
convicting
itself
us as
Direct
terrorists.
Action claimed responsibility
We were portrayed as
for the
dangerous,
communicated
psychotic
announcing
criminals
ecological
without
rape.
politics. Then our
October
charges were
14th,
separated into 4
1982,
separate indictments, of
Litton
which the first
Systems
was the Brinks
Incorporated of
conspiracy,
Rexdale, Ontario,
so that we would be
was attacked by
criminalized.
Direct Action.
This would make
The
it
company
harder
is a
for people
branch
to
of an
understand
American
us as
firm which
political
had been
people
subjected
for
to
our future
nationwide
trials.
protest for its part in the construction
Over
of
the
the
last
US
couple
cruise
of days,
missile
we've heard
system.
witnesses who are
$5
activists
million
around the
in
different
damage
issues.
reported.
They have spoken
4
at
plant
great length
workers
about
and
their
3
efforts
policemen
and the
were
efforts of
injured
other
in the
groups
blast.
to prevent the
Despite
testing of the
having
crews,
received
the
ample
construction of the
warning from
Chikai
the Direct
Dunsmuir
Action
line,
Group
and
that
to
a bomb
stop
of
Red Hot
considerable
Video.
strength was to explode
I think
at
it's
site.
become fairly obvious through their testimony
November
that in
22nd,
each case they had
1982,
exhausted all the
2 red-hot
legitimate
video
channels of
outlets
social
were firebombed.
protest in order to stop these
Some
projects.
Vancouver women's groups had been fighting
It was
for over
because
6
there was no
months
legal way to
previously
stop
for
these
authorities
crimes
to
against
take action
humanity and
against
the earth that I
proliferation
felt
of
I had
violent
to use illegal
pornography in
actions
the
to do
city.
so.
A
We
group
have a
calling
moral
itself the Women's
responsibility
Fire
to stop
Brigade
the arms
claimed
race, violent
responsibility.
pornography, and the destruction of the
A
earth.
month after the bombing,
This moral law
police raided
far
a dozen
overrides
porn
any
stores.
obligation to adhere to
A month
man-made
after
laws.
that, the first charge is laid for violating
On January
the criminal
20th,
code prohibition of
1983,
combining sex
as
and
many as
violence.
200 seabirds,
On January 20th,
mainly ducks and western
1983,
grebes,
as they are
died
heading
following
north
the
on the
worst
Squamish
oil spill
Highway.
affecting Vancouver's
5
outer
Vancouver
harbor
people
since
are arrested
1973.
and charged with criminal activities
Between 50
resulting
and
from
100
alleged
barrels of
membership
thick
in an
bunker
anarchist
oil
action group.
leaked from a hole in a
The
fuel
dramatic
tank.
capture featured
Authorities
numerous
had not
SWAT
contained the
personnel
leak as
wearing
first believed.
camouflaged combat fatigues,
Charges were not
bullet-resistant
laid against
vests,
the industrialists
gas
or
masks,
the governments
and
involved.
armed with the latest Car 15
Let's just
assault
worry
rifles
about me and her
riot
getting in the way.
shotguns.
Nervous as shit. And then if the guard picks up this and fucking grabs somebody's leg or something like that while he's lying there, that's just an ultimate bummer. So if one person just handles the whole thing, it just kicks behind the guard until he's completely incapacitated.
At 8:45, it leaves the depot.
The creative mind is criminal. Naturally, it desires nothing less than the overthrow of its own articulations.
Well, maybe one person could do the gun and handcuffing. Then she could pick up the money bags. That's a totally separate trip. You could say to him, put your hands up.
Kick him in the head or something. If he really tried to do something, she should shoot him. If he goes for me, I won't have my gun on me. I'll kick him if he goes for me. If that doesn't work, then she'll shoot him.
Between 1:30 and 3:10, they have already made 6 stops. You're not going to kill him unless he goes for... He might do something desperate. In a world of militarism and reconstituted concentration camps of mass starvation, the corporate media has to reinforce each day its framing of what violence and crime really are, and thus famines, droughts, unemployment, poverty, increased military budgets, death squads, alienation, and the absence of a cultural agenda are not to be seen as organized. Every year, 100,000 undernourished children go blind due to a deficiency of vitamin A. The world produces well over 2.5 times the grain needed to feed everyone.
If you have power, you can name anything. You can say anything happened.
It really does smell like...
Smells like shit. So how far does one go?
The closest police station...
That's it, isn't it? Caught in excitement, one tries to wake up, to adjust, to negotiate an existence.
The closest police station is 3 miles away.
Collective confessions of guilt are the best possible safeguard against collective action, and the very magnitude of the crime the best excuse for doing nothing. Pompous asses, interested parties, concerned citizens, bleeding hearts. Look, it's the strategists who work at this ideology of the unacceptable, the engineers of war. And it's just as much the multinationals who invest in this apocalyptic future that are responsible.
I said to her, the bank looked like a church. She said to me, money makes people feel virtuous.
We were all caught in a military enclosure. The great stroke of luck for the military is terrorism, that no one recognizes their armored identity.
Canada, the number 1 growth industry is janitorial services. Number 2, private security forces. Do we need to draw a line from point to point?
Obedience to the law is freedom.
I close my eyes and all I see is violence, and I don't know why. Yesterday, to speak today, for the agony not to be lost. Repeated, whose child? What politics will suffice? Heart unarmed.
The new reality, an old fascism. Every war, crime. Those that prepare the weapons, those that prepare the fodder. Each nation that furthers militarism is conspiring against humanity.
Time of the wars, time rushing nowhere, range, and extermination of space, and freedom of thought, and the possibility of terrors. This depression of vaccination of all ways. Towards innocent multimation of suicide. Which is for rebalance, the causal wave, the destruction of that end. Reactionary, medieval, industrial, and scientific procedures from which political choice is absent. The automatic antimatter arms and means also is the same as denial ability to reason. It is life traded for another subsistence. All refugees from state of terror has no boundaries. What to deep is to inhabit, not to inhabit is to no longer exist. We no longer exist. Going nowhere.
The light ghost inside of mind. Headful burst, repeat, aware, place to place in black and white. Symbol. And window finally getting up in the morning, heading off to work, to kill all time, all dead. Night. Graves all hungry. Imagine. Fancy that. Between legs. Up back. Down front. Full face. Side glance. Thrown up by what? God bother pain addict. Way no in, none out. Earth level, it's full of war. Rain taste, man-made, shivering, more, less, and on, and bodies, price to pay in flesh and blood, all dreams. And
What's to remember?
what and when?
Tomorrow?
Lost
A dream.
image always is far. Put it back in mind, like a tin wafer in a rotting strawberry mouth. Same man, same woman, same child. And it might not be bad, but it certainly is this. Rods of movement in our own lives. Even the guard tower, frost, shade. Do you remember the funny? No, this recall tomorrow. Yesterday, today, in the human voice. Struggle between the strains of strain between strains of walls.
During the sentencing, the judge said that this case is criminal, not political. Yet the heavy sentencing was justified by the judge as a necessary social deterrent, which indicates that the court is so threatened by the potential of social upheaval that it takes this heavy sentencing to deter others. That is political. It seems that the severity of the prison sentence is in direct proportion to the perceived level of discontent in society. I understand why I have participated in the legal system up to now. But in retrospect, in order to be honest to my political principles, I should have refused to collaborate in this legal sham and instead simply stated my political reasons for doing what I did.
By the arrival of the report, i.e., that it's one matter is terminated.
All those 60s visions, they turned into nothing but 80s views out coming out of DSW speakers.
Why can't you look on the side? And made a woman of us. When Adam awoke, God gave him this beautiful young woman to be his wife. Adam gave her a name. He called her Eve. Adam
Come on, let's face it.
There were two
God's always pointed at her own head. No one's expecting change.
at all.
So, I don't see the point of making such a big deal about this
garden with trees and flowers and tame animals.
Just listen to yourself.
Everything was wonderful and very, very good. God made Adam and Eve so that they could have children. He wanted us to have children. He wanted the earth to be filled with people to love him and praise him. After a while, Adam and Eve did have children. The very first baby that was born was a boy. Adam and Eve, wonderful baby, were named them Cain.
Yeah, that is so easy.
Boys and girls. The boys.
Dennis, why don't you do that? Why don't you shut up?
Then
Dennis, why don't you do that?
had children. Soon there were many people.
When I think of what's out there, the life.
God made all the babies that have ever been conceived. All the people on earth today are children of Adam and Eve. Adam was our first father. Eve was our first mother. You know all this because the Bible tells us.
A man in a car drives to a house. The house is completely empty. I'm startled, and aged with joy, and he discovers the house cannot maintain a reflection, nor a shadow, nor an object. First thing he sees before his disappearance is his hands locking the front door of the house, and his mother's face in orgasm. The Sandman picks up flecks of sleep his wife gives birth, God Almighty becomes hog wild, conscious of his teeth, his loneliness. Hoarsely, his dog's barking, wanting to get out of the house.
More money is spent for weapons worldwide than any other single commodity. The market increases every year. 600 billion in 1986.
You have picked up the phone, dialed his number, and in that moment, you established a belief. A belief that I would say something that would bring you the comfort that you needed, or the answer. And I want you to know that I believe in you. I don't have to know you, because I know the one that created you. Sorry, you have dialed a number which cannot be reached from your calling area. Ja viikon ensimmäisenä päivänä naiset tulivat haudalle Ani vanhain auringon noustessa. Oi mikä Hello. Thank you for calling the Messianic phone line.
You are willing to keep silent about one reign of terror in order the better to combat another. There are some who do not want to keep silent about anything. It's the whole political society that nauseates. Hence there will be no salvation until all those who are still worthwhile have repudiated it utterly in order to find, somewhere outside insoluble contradictions, the way to a complete renewal. Meantime, struggle with the knowledge that totalitarian tyranny is not based on the virtues of the totalitarians. It's based on the apathy of the democracies.
We're dead, I know it. Sure looks that way to me. We're dead, I know it. Just look around and say, glassy-eyed, fool's pride. life is cheap. Hucksters creep on the make, on the take. Money talks and bullshit walks. We're dead, I know it. Sure looks that way to me. We're dead, I know it. Just look around and see. Nursery rooms, sterile tombs, poison breath, foul death, marching feet, blood-soaked street, great wide rays, cadavers grinning face. We're dead, I know it. Sure looks that way to me. We're dead, I know it. Just look around and see. We're dead, I know it. Sure looks that way to me. We're dead, I know it. Just look around and see.
Sustained nuclear chain reaction, initiated by United States, 1942. Reaction by USSR, 1946. Atomic bomb, initiated by United States, 1945. Reaction by USSR, 1949. Intercontinental bomber, initiated by United States, 1948. Reaction
Conspiracy
by
of the
USSR,
absurd.
1955. International Military Pact, initiated by United States, 1949. USSR reaction, 1955. Tactical nuclear weapons deployed in Europe, initiated by United States, 1954. Reaction by USSR, 1955. Nuclear-powered submarine, initiated by United States, 1955. Reaction by USSR, 1959. ICBM, initiated by USSR, 1957. Reaction by United States, 1958.
The zero growth of the society's culture goes hand in hand with the absolute growth of the military state.
Initiated by United States.
The zero growth of the society's culture goes hand in hand with the absolute growth of the military state.
Initiated by United States, 1970. USSR reaction, 1975. Computerized missile guidance, initiated by United States, 1970. Reaction by USSR, 1975. Neutron bomb,
Initiated by United States, 1981. Reaction by USSR, none yet. Long-range cruise missile. Initiated by long-range cruise missile. Initiated by United States, 1987. None yet. Reaction by USSR. None yet. None yet.
The United States has 12,000 strategic nuclear weapons and spends about $70 billion a year preparing for nuclear war. Although the U.S. public believes the money is all for deterrence, a substantial fraction of the funds is earmarked for use after deterrence has failed. The Pentagon wants an additional $14 billion to fight and win a prolonged nuclear war with the Soviet Union. On November 28, 1986, the U.S. administration intentionally violated the SALT II treaty, ending all agreed numerical limits on U.S. and Soviet missiles and bombers carrying nuclear weapons. To proceed with this orbiting Maginot Line, the Strategic Defense Initiative, or Star Wars, it still seeks to terminate illegally U.S. obligations under the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty. At the same time, the U.S. administration has gone ahead with the development and deployment of such highly accurate, hard-target, multiple warhead missiles as MX and the Trident II D5 submarine missiles, which threaten the Soviet Union with a first strike attack.
In Damascus, Arkansas, an Air Force experiment was working on a missile silo. The silo contained a Titan II missile with a 9 megaton warhead. While working, he dropped a socket wrench, rolled off the work silo, off the bottom of the silo, bounced to the street, hit the missile, and punctured the fuel tank. 8.5 hours later, the vapors ignite and explode. 1 man is killed, 20 injured. The bomb is 50 yards away and is found in a field lying next to. If the bomb had exploded, the effect would have been approximately 8 times greater than that of the Hiroshima bomb.
And other related information. Inquiries regarding these transmissions may be directed to the National Bureau of Standards, radio station
Litton, Canada, a wholly owned subsidiary of the U.S. company, has received over $62.8 million in Canadian government grants since 1980. Ottawa provided financial assistance to begin the production of the navigation systems in Canada for the cruise and has been actively involved in the whole process since. Litton is presently under contract for 10,000 components for the air launch cruise and another 10,000 for the sea launch cruise. Litton has hired 2,000 workers in the past 5 years and has increased sales from $119 million in 1982 to $425 million in 1986.
you.